Balcombe, population around 2,000. It's in the London commuter belt. It's also the archetype of village life, and it's deeply anxious. Balcombe lies on the Sussex Weald, a huge area of woodland which is home to protected species and which is designated an area of outstanding natural beauty. It's also now likely to be the test bed for fracking. The private site where experimental drilling is due to begin is covered by a blanket of security and threatening warnings.
It's called Lower Meadham Wood, and it's an ancient woodland and obviously incredibly beautiful.
The prospect of this quiet place being overrun by lorries, chemicals forced into the ground and gas burned into the air has galvanised people into opposition.
Some experts say as much as 10 wells per square mile will be needed, and this will also mean massive levels of industrial truck traffic. It will completely change the landscape here, and also each well needs to flare off the excess gases, which is incredibly toxic and will just be blowing straight over people's homes.
In Balcombe, the plan is to frack for oil, but the bigger prize is the extent of the shale gas reserve. For fracking companies, much of the UK must look like Texas did to oil men in 1900. Still, the government insists it is focused on the environment.
We've now got in place a very strict regulatory regime, stricter than anything else in the world. So if through the exploratory drilling, which I think we're now going to see in larger numbers, if it proves that shale gas can be commercially viable, at least people can be reassured that we've not left any stone unturned to make sure that it can be done safely.
But they're not reassured in Balcombe. The tiny streams which run through the ancient woods here aren't only home to wildlife. They feed into a big reservoir in the valley which provides water to a whole swathe of southern England. The fear is that if chemicals forced into the rock as part of fracking then seep into the water supply, the damage to the balance of nature could be catastrophic. Of course, the government will say that fracking here will be safe, though they've got absolutely no way of proving it. And the more they test in places like this, the more they'll come up against genuinely deep-seated opposition among communities with serious fears about the environment and health. But the government will say there's an economic imperative. You've got to keep the lights on and you've got to keep the economy growing. Surveys have found 8 out of 10 people here opposed to fracking. Safe or not, there's a very obvious argument that local democracy is being hammered into the ground by the drive for energy. Laurence, Al Jazeera, Balcombe.